Hello everyone and welcome to this very special webinar as part of the GFOI Plenary 2021, focusing on the Google Earth Engine solution for the NICFI planet base maps. My name is Charlotte Bishop. I am the project manager for the NICFI data program from KSAT, and I'm joined by Tara O'Shea from Planet, who will work with me presenting this solution to you today and introducing our speakers from both Google and UNFAO to show how this data is already being used within the program and by our users. It's really fantastic to be able to share this brief webinar with you today to introduce this to you. I will give a very short overview of the NICFI data program, what we have achieved so far in the year that the program has been live. And then Google will give us an update on this partnership solution that has come to fruition and we're able to now present to you. And then finally, before we lead to questions, we will have UNFAO presenting on a demonstration of how they are already making use of this access. So without further ado, I just want to move into a very brief overview of the program. As many of you may already be using the data. I won't focus so much on the specifics of the data program or the products, but there will be many opportunities during this webinar to see where you can find out more information on the program, and likewise we can touch on that during the question and answer session as well. But what I wanted to remind everyone is the scope and the scale of this program. It covers a vast area across the global tropical forest region. It's about 45 million square kilometres, and every month from September 2020, we have a new mosaic from Planet covering this whole region, and providing access of both visual mosaics and also analytical mosaics. And it's great to now be offering those solutions to those users who are using Google Earth Engine and would like to make the use of these tools within Google Earth Engine. I thought this would be quite a useful slide to include just to see how well the program is already being used. So since we started the program last September, we have now well over 7,500 users accessing the data that we're talking about today. We have over 300 different user stories from across user groups, including private sector, research, universities, and pretty much anyone, media, and various other entities across 130 different countries, when we actually have 97 countries who are included in the program. So I won't go through all of these stats, but suffice to say that it really has grown during the last year in terms of the offering and the availability, and also the use by the users. And we are constantly surprised on the project team side, and I'm sure Tara will mention this when she takes over from me shortly, just how this is being used by the users, and really the diversity of the access and tools that everyone is making the benefit of this within the scope of the purpose to reduce and reverse the loss of tropical forests. So with already 15.1 million tiles streamed of this data as of July this year, I think it's fantastic to see such a growth and interaction and engagement, and we really hope the inclusion of the access through Google Earth Engine will help to improve that for those users who really will welcome the facilitation provided by that partnership. And I just wanted to touch a little bit on the license and access levels and provide a little bit of information as to the types of users that we have accessing. It really is a broad group. We have our level 0, which really is open to everyone. Most people accessing through our partner platforms don't know that they are a level 0 user, but these are ways to access the program without having to sign up. You don't need to be a specialist in satellite data to be able to make visual understanding and comparisons of the data sets. And we have already 3 partners. That partnership at that level is growing, but already being able to access the data publicly, view only through those tools, we know is already helping to facilitate a number of users. At level 1, which is our largest user group level that we're really focusing on today, this is our as open as possible level. So we have a number of different groups at this level, from private sector to research to media and other organisations, as I mentioned. And this is where people have access to both the visual and analysis ready mosaics, both of which will be available through Google Earth Engine tools. And very finally, we have level 2. We will not be focusing on the level 2 today, largely because this is very different in terms of the offering, and it is only for a much smaller group of people. So our focus is on level 1, where we have, as I mentioned, over 7,500 users already 1 year into the programme. And we are working with a number of outreach partners, Google Earth Engine, of course, being one of them that we're showcasing today, as well as Microsoft, Mapbox and Esri. And we're happy, of course, to answer questions and share more information on the different ways you can access the data. So my very final slide, and to touch on some of those pointers, if you have any questions at all about the data, the access, if you have any challenges, making the most benefit from the programme, then we have a 24/7 help desk available to everyone. You see the email address at the top of the screen, and we'll make sure that that is shared with all participants as well. And you can find out more at planet.com/NICFI, which is our project landing page. But I don't want to take up any more of the time, because I really want us to focus on the Google Earth Engine and the user demo today. So Tara, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Charlotte. That was a really excellent summary of the program and its impact to date. As Charlotte mentioned, we are just really excited to see all of the applications and use cases that users are achieving through this program. And I think we are especially excited today to launch this new solution and partnership with Google Earth Engine, so that users can access the data and work analytically with the data right there. And so, as Charlotte said, today is really about hearing from Google and some of our users and partners themselves. And so with that, I'm going to hand it right over to our speakers. First, we are going to hear from Brian Sullivan. Brian is a senior program manager at Google, where he leads much of the Google Earth Engine and Google Ocean outreach programs. And so I'm excited to hear from Brian on the reason why we are all here today, which is this new partnership and solution within the NICFI data program. And so with that, Brian, over to you.
So thank you so much for the invitation. When this program was first announced just under a year ago, I remember everybody that I knew in kind of the Earth observation community, which is a small, tight-knit one filled with all kinds of wonderful people, was just ecstatic about what was happening. This is unprecedented amounts of data being flooded into the community for a cause that so many of us care so deeply about. And even before it was announced, Google was looking to say, how can we help in this? This was a cause that we want to be part of. And so we're thrilled to be here. And while we're calling this a new partnership, everybody in this partnership are people that Google's been working with for many years now. And so we really see this as kind of a deepening of that partnership across all the speakers here today and so many of the people that will be using this in the future. So what is Earth Engine? I think most of you that are coming know what it is, and that's why you're here. But from the very beginning, more than 10 years ago, when Earth Engine first came out at one of COP16, the goal has always been how to create this planetary scale platform for Earth science and analysis for environmental and sustainability and societal use cases. And so the mission of the NICFI program fits entirely with that, and we're really excited to bring this forward. And so when we look at Earth Engine, we see it as kind of three main pillars. And we really think that the NICFI data program really contributes to all of them. So if you look at the data catalog itself, Earth Engine has probably the world's largest public data set within that. But what the NICFI program brings to this is unprecedented. It's higher resolution, it's a deeper time stack, and there's so much that can really be done with this that was not possible previously. But when we get data that's this large, it becomes a necessity to bring the data next to the computing platform. Otherwise, you just can't download that data enough or rely on your own machines to process it. And so by putting Earth Engine directly next to that data, It allows us to run these analyses that would not be possible otherwise, and to do them at a scale at the global level, at the deep time series level, that wouldn't otherwise be possible. And when you get this higher resolution imagery, you can start detecting things at such a higher granularity, both from a classification as well as from an object perspective. But the methodologies that we traditionally use of pixel-based math in remote sensing often don't work at this higher resolution. And so Earth Engine's been pushing more and more for integration within our cloud AI platforms, so you can run machine learning, artificial intelligence, and TensorFlow models that you developed at scale within Earth Engine, because we're seeing that as kind of the next level of generations that we're needing for these deforestation alerting systems and monitoring systems. And finally, the other thing that we've learned is, as part of Earth Engine, it's not just the data, it's not just the computing, but it's really the ecosystem that's developed around that. And so while we're saying easily we have 50,000 monthly active users, the types of users that are showing up to this are constantly evolving and changing as well. And so we'll hear from some of them today, like FAO. They've been longtime Earth Engine users, but we're also seeing this evolve, where in the beginning, if we can go on to the next slide. Oh, and I will just say, for people that are looking at this, know that the NICFI data will be in Earth Engine, just like every other data set that we have in there. So you'll be able to call it. Eric will walk through a demo where he'll bring what it is. We have the codes up there just as before. You will have to apply for access, and Tara will walk you through that. But once you've done that, it'll be just like every other data set. And so just building on that community idea, if you go to the next slide again, and then click to start the video. So this is back in 2012, I believe. This was Matt Hansen Global Forest Change product. And this was kind of one of the first data sets that Google Earth Engine was used to put out. And it was that same concept of a public good in that data set that could be used by everybody and would hope to drive change with it. But this started as an academic project. But then we quickly saw groups like NICFI stand up to help support and fund World Resources Institute to build Global Forest Watch. And if you can go to the next slide. And from Global Forest Watch, you have to apply the arrow, otherwise we'll keep playing the video. And so what we're seeing, though, is it goes from an academic piece to now getting philanthropy and other government organizations involved in capacity building. And then what we're seeing is from there, we can go on to the next one. It's a tremendous amount of computing power that we're excited to make available for this. And after we've seen kind of the academics and then the NGOs come in, we've also seen journalists and investigative reporters being able to take that and putting it out to the community in digestible ways. We've also seen government step up, like the US Forest Services, and as well as UN agencies for capacity building. And they're starting to take that research and bring that into operational work. And finally, we're starting to see the private sector also get involved in this community. And what's incredible is anything that's being done within this ecosystem is often being shared amongst that and makes it a richer environment. And finally, in the last slide, we're really excited that FAO is one of the leaders in this space. We had signed our MOU with them back at COP21 many years ago now, and they've just been a steady drumbeat of building on our platforms to do incredible work. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for this. We're really excited to see how it's going to be used. I really think this is a new chapter. And I'll bring it on to Eric or Tara if you'd like to introduce them. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. That was also a really excellent summary. And, I couldn't agree more about how exciting it is to bring this, massive amount of high resolution data right to the compute and the sorts of solutions that that's going to bring to these end users who, as Charlotte mentioned, are applying this data in all sorts of ways to create solutions for reducing and reversing tropical forest loss. So that's really excellent, and a great segue there to introduce our user demo. I'm really excited to share with you all how to actually put this solution into practice. So it's my pleasure to introduce Eric Lindquist. Eric is a forestry program officer with the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Eric and his team actually provided some technical feedback on this solution as it was being developed. And so I'm excited to hand it over to Eric. He's going to share a few of the practical applications that they are already working on with the Planet NICFI data inside of Google Earth Engine, both within their team and with their partner countries. So with that, Eric, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Tara. It's just first off, it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure to be here today to present some of our work and to present in your company and to present this amazing data set, because as Brian, you said that it really presents an unprecedented opportunity to increase our capacity to augment the data sets that have been available for so long with Landsat and Copernicus data sets, but then to also now add this level of detail to things. It's really incredible. So the first thing, I'll try to keep this brief, but talk about, just mention that it's an incredible available to the Earth Engine community, just unbelievable. So Earth Engine takes that. So we've been working with Planet at FAO for the last 3 years, and we've got a lot of experience with the amazing data set. But we've also understood that there are always issues with storing and processing these large data sets. Well, Earth Engine now removes those barriers to both the data storage problem and the processing problem, so it makes it more available to more people around the world, and we're really happy to be a part of that and to facilitate that amongst users around the world. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've already been able to integrate the imagery into our open forest, so free and open source open forest set of tools for forest monitoring and land monitoring in general. Talk a little bit about visual and automated interpretation, how we're using it for that and for automated classification approaches, and then show a little bit about how we're using it experimentally, or starting to get into experimental uses of it on a large scale inside of our next slide. So this is just an example of how the data look when they're set out across the entire Pantropics in their natural color, and they're animated by a monthly time step, or by the time step available with the base maps. They behave just like normal image collections, so they behave just like Landsat, Sentinel-2, other image collections, and they natively come in 3 separate regions, so the Africa region, the Asia region, and the Americas region. But you can of course combine them in all the ways to make one large pantropical coverage. You can combine time steps to make mosaics and composites and best pixel composites and things like that. Custom the way you want to do it and the way that you're used to doing it with the Landsat and Sentinel and MODIS data sources. Next slide. So we've already put these data sources into an operational context. So we've been able to ingest the base maps and use for very, very low-hanging fruit, but still useful things like visual interpretation on a monthly time step of sample-based area estimation. And Ghana is one of the countries that has used these data for reporting to the UNFCCC already. So it's already been implemented by countries. The information gained from these data have already been reported to the UNFCCC, and it's these sorts of things that we'll try to multiply over the coming days and weeks and months, and get more and more people using these data for real reporting, for real decision making, and hopefully making impacts in terms of reducing CO2 emissions from deforestation and forest degradation. Next slide, please. So this is an example of how we've already been able to integrate the data inside our open forest toolkit. So again, these data work. We can talk with Earth Engine, and we can build customized apps with Earth Engine data, and then we can make it do whatever we want it to do within our application. So this is inside our CPL application, which is a big data processing platform, which is sort of based partly on Google Earth Engine. So here you can basically access these data immediately, draw any area of interest, any time period of interest. You have access to the monthly time step, but if you want to look at a year long or 6 month long, you can combine the available base maps into best pixel composites automatically over that time period. So whatever time period of interest you're interested in, for whatever area of interest you're interested in. And this is of course also all available via code inside Earth Engine, but if you don't want to code in Earth Engine, you can do it like this. And this is just an example of how we've started to work with the data. They're available in color infrared and natural color. So basically you can, clip out any area you want for any time period you want, save those data, and then you can go ahead and turn those data into information, turn those images into information. So Charlotte, if you can go to the next slide. This is an example of how, like, I created a custom composite over a small little part of Fiji randomly, and then classified that little part of Fiji. It's like 12 square kilometers, I think, a small island in Fiji, and then just started doing some classification work in it to see what kind of granularity you can achieve with these data. So here we're classifying like trees and infrastructure and other land over this very small area, and the resolution is really incredible in this instance and in all instances. And to think that you have this for this tiny little 12 square piece all the way across the tropics is really incredible. So next slide, please. So we're using it for all these things, but we're also using it for some experimental use. And this is a way that we've started to look at all of the data in the base map time series, in the NICFI Planet time series. So from 2016 to 2021, and they keep coming, of course. So we've condensed these monthly base maps into annual base maps. Basically, we're trying to run, we're running Landtrender over the entire data set. So we can run it at a very fine scale and look at fine scale changes over a very small area. We look at this change in trend, annual trend over time, and look at that magnitude change to look at positive and negative changes, both subtle positive and subtle negative, but also strong positive and negative changes. And we can look at it over that one tiny area that I just showed in Indonesia. And you can take that one little area and expand it across the entire pantropics all at once, basically. So we have that granularity of data across all of the pantropics. And this is, again, just an experiment. Like I took the existing Landtrender code and plugged in the planet data to see what we could do and see if it ran, and it ran. So really excited to see what everybody else can do with the data, because I'm sure that you've all got some great ideas already at work. And this is just one tiny example about how it takes this amazing ability and scales it across this amazing granularity and scales it across the pantropics. So I think that's my last slide, but anyway, maybe you can tell I'm pretty excited about this opportunity, and I'm excited to see what all of you can do with these data once you get your hands on them. Thank you.
Awesome, Eric. Thank you for that. I totally agree. I think there's so much exciting potential here for the granularity at scale. And it's also really neat to see that this plugged right into some of those existing tools. So I totally agree. I'm also very excited to see what all of you can do with existing or maybe even new approaches now that this is available. So with that, we have a few minutes left. So we'd like to open it up to Q&A. There should be a Q&A chat box that you all see on your screen. You can feel free to submit questions there. And I actually have a couple to kick us off, but please do submit questions as they come in. Charlotte, if you could advance, I think, 2 slides. The first question we kind of wanted to cover, because I'm sure it's first on everyone's mind, is how do I sign up for this? Well, first, you need to be a registered NICFI user. If you have not already signed up to the NICFI data program, you can do so at planet.com/NICFI, that same address that Charlotte mentioned earlier. If you are an existing NICFI user, please check your email. You should have received an email to your Planet account email inviting you to sign up for this Google Earth Engine solution. You can also go to the link that is shown here, planet.com/NICFI/question GE=show. I know that's a complicated link, and so this is also available from that planet.com/NICFI. And you can always also visit our community page within the Developer Center, which will include a whole wealth of technical documentation. So again, please keep your questions coming in. I'm going to kick us off with one here. This question really is for both Brian and Eric. You both shared some really excellent examples of applications both within Earth Engine and of the NICFI data within Earth Engine. So I'm curious if you could both speak to, obviously the solution is just launching, but what sorts of applications and what sort of potential are you most excited about with this new solution?
Okay, I got a nod from Eric on that. Well, Tara, thank you for putting me on live recorded line and asked me to pick between favorite children. So that's a dangerous topic. But I think, as we said before, we really see this as kind of like a germinating seed, and or maybe like the wildflower packet. And you don't know exactly which ones are going to come up, and there's some surprises in there. But I think one thing that's really starting to come out that wasn't as present just 2 years ago, 5 years ago, or something else, is that we're seeing more and more involvement from the private sector. And we're seeing this from large consumer packaged goods. We're seeing this from financial services. And they're making real commitments at the executive and board level about no deforestation in their supply chain, about ensuring that their portfolio is not adding to climate change, and creating things like green bonds and wanting to verify carbon offsets and kind of enhance those markets. And so all of that's extremely exciting. And I think it's something that we've been hoping for a long time, because when we look at what needs to change for climate change, what needs to change around deforestation, it's also the deep engagement of the private markets, just because that's such a large lever to make these changes. And we're really starting to see that traction now. But as I said before, they're really building on the entire community of what's come before that in the academic and the government and the other spaces. So I think that's the one that I'm really rooting for, in addition to kind of all the unknown flowers that I'm looking forward to seeing bloom. Eric?
Yeah, I'll just add on to that, because I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think my hope from the maybe more the international organization, government monitoring side of things, is that we will be able to augment the existing information we have, that long history, that long archive of Landsat and Sentinel Copernicus data that has been so wonderful to use, that we can augment that with this increased detail and increased nuanced information that will hopefully be that persuasive bit that enables the private sector to make the decisions that and the government to monitor these decisions, and people arrive more quickly on the truth, the truth that they need, the resolution they need, the confidence they need in the results to jointly move forward to make these better decisions, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian and Eric. And I really agree. I think increasingly this sort of geospatial information is more relevant to even more users, and that only means good things for climate solutions across sectors. I'm seeing a few more questions come in. One question has come in about the cost of the solution and the data. And just to say that through this program, the Norwegian Ministry of Climate and Environment has provided comprehensive access to this high resolution satellite data over the tropics for this purpose. So if you have not already, please do go to planet.com/NICFI and register. The terms of the program are all there, but you can sign up there today. And I think we have time for one more. I see a question has come in for Eric. What types of seminars and tutorials exist for the sorts of tools and outputs that you just mentioned?
That's a good question. But so since this is all so new for everybody, we haven't really developed any specific seminars around this particular use of the data set. I can leave a link to some of the help documents we have about our particular open forest platform and CEPL platform. There's links available for Google Earth Engine, within Google Earth Engine, to how to manipulate the data a little bit. There's links also probably on the Planet developer website on how to manipulate the data. and those would probably all be useful, but we will be developing some specific tutorials around these data pretty much immediately. But unfortunately, I don't have any of those specific links to share right now.
Awesome, thank you. And in response to that question too, I would just highlight also the page that you see here, developers.planet.com/NICFI. This has a number of technical user guides available. Brian also showed that the data sets now have their own page in the Earth Engine catalog, so you can also access that within the Google Earth Engine catalog. I'm seeing a few more comments come in just about how excited people are. So Brian, it sounds like a lot of people are using Google Earth Engine already in many ecosystems in the tropics, and they're very excited to apply the data there. So that's really great. So I think with that, we are just about at time. I want to thank the organizers of the GFOI for having this as a side event to the 2021 plenary. Thank you so much to the KSAT team for hosting this webinar. I also just building on the question of upcoming tutorials, we do have a few more resources that will be coming in the weeks ahead. So in addition to this developers page, we will also be putting out a technical blog series that walks through a few use cases. So please be on the lookout for that. Planet and Google and KSAT will all share those resources. Lastly, we will also have a workshop at the upcoming Planet Explore conference. That will be in mid-October, so please go ahead and check that out. Brian, as well as some folks from the Planet team, will be presenting there. And so with that, any final or closing thoughts from our speakers, from our hosts at KSAT?
We're super excited to see this.
Awesome. Yeah, we are so excited to see what you all do with this. So thank you for your participation in this event and in this program overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And I echo that as well. It's great to see such interaction and some really engaging questions from the audience. And we've been waiting a long time for this. I think that's safe to say, and I'm really excited to now be able to share this with you. And we really look forward to seeing how the users make the most of that. And also, I think, as Brian mentioned, the collaboration element, I think, is important, and what we've seen quite a lot of over the last year of the program. And I think this program is so unique in terms of its offering. It's really exciting to see how through the course of the program, with two, hopefully 4 years total remaining, I think it will be really interesting to see the varying use cases that come through. So yes, I echo Tara's thank you as well. Thank you very much for attending, and we have recorded this webinar, so we will be providing that with a whole load of links for you as well in the coming days. So watch out for an email that will come through Eventbrite with a link to the webinar, and also some of the links that we talked about and that Eric talked about and Brian has as well, and we'll make all that available for you. Thank you.